Hey everyone, it's great to be live with you again. We're focusing in on China as they're wrapping up a month from hell, intense lockdowns in various parts of China, including the 25 million population city of Shanghai. The stories out of Shanghai are horrible. The government in China is indeed locking people's homes to the extent of welding their homes shut so that they cannot leave during this lockdown. I have a Chinese affairs expert on the line who's going to join me live to break down what's really happening there. Let me, before I show you, let me give you a look here. So this is the Chinese police arresting a man, we are told, because he didn't keep up with his daily screenings for the illness. We're going to show a lot more cell phone video and talk about what's happening. Before we get into it, shout out to the sponsor of my coverage. Shout out to the sponsor of my coverage, which is Aura. How many people have you shared your Netflix password with, or any other online service for that matter? The average consumer has 90 accounts, but do you have 90 different passwords? You probably don't, which means if someone has one of your passwords, they probably have access to a couple of your other accounts. This leaves you extremely vulnerable to unwanted account access, and where there's unwanted account access, identity theft and fraud is never too far behind. If you think it can't happen to you, know that American consumers lost $56 billion due to identity theft scams in 2020. That's why I am excited to partner with Aura, who is sponsoring this video. Aura is identity theft protection, fraud monitoring, a VPN, password management, and antivirus software, all combined into one easy-to-use app. Aura monitors the dark web for your emails, passwords, and social security numbers, and sends alerts fast right to your phone and email. When it comes to fraud, every second matters. Connect your credit and bank accounts and get notified of any changes up to 4 times faster than Aura's competitors. Their VPN allows you to stay anonymous online by keeping your browsing history and personal information safe and encrypted, and their antivirus software that will block malware and viruses before they infect your devices. Don't put your family at risk. Try Aura free for 2 weeks and see if your personal identifiable information has leaked to the dark web. Start your free trial at aura.com/Ivory Hecker. That's linked right down in my description. With that being said, let me bring on senior reporter for the Epoch Times, Nan Su. Thank you so much for joining me, Nan.
Thank you, Ivory, for having me.
So you're born and raised in China. You're an expert on Chinese affairs. I want to show you, you and the viewers, this video of Chinese government literally welding people inside their homes, and get your take on it. Here it is. Yeah, and the Associated Press is actually highlighting this in an article today that says several districts in Shanghai put up metal barriers last weekend as part of the city's battle against the illness outbreak, in a move that drew protests and anger from some residents. You can see in the picture there, it's not just the front doors to these buildings. They are putting up like what looks like a jail around your patio. Nan Su, that's looking pretty bleak there in China.
Yes, so the Chinese regime is now doing this all it can do to deal with this health crisis in a political movement, in the way of how they did the Cultural Revolution in 60s and 70s. the Communist Party in China really set its highest goal, this political goal as the highest mission to achieve the so-called zero COVID case. This is their highest goal now, and they put this goal way above humanity. Now we have a lot of horrible stories that we read and from the social media platform. The people complain. There were people jump off the building, die, just because the Chinese communist regime tried to reach their political mission.
I'm looking at daily cases right now, and it says that if you Google it, the 7-day average of daily cases in Shanghai is 2,000 cases. So out of about 25 million people, there's 2,000 cases. And when I was reading earlier, most of the testing that comes back is asymptomatic. So someone comes back positive for the illness, but they're not even sick. But that instigates an entire lockdown. Now, if the patios have jail bars on them and the front door is welded shut, what if a fire breaks out in this apartment complex?
Like I say, they pay any price, including the price of human life, to achieve this political mission, which is the highest goal of the regime right now. And part of the reason they are doing all this, it's really because in the last couple of years, when this outbreak in all around the world, specifically in the Western society, like in the United States, we try to have a condition that the human being can coexist with the COVID virus. Now, China has always trying to use these lockdown measures to achieve zero case. Now, in the process of the last couple of years, now we have seen that we have a lot more cases in the Western world, and China has less cases now. So it became a propaganda convenient way for the regime to say, the Chinese political system is way more better than the Western world's political system. They really try to use this as a propaganda to brainwash people. So now
you're basically like, you're locked in a literal jail, but at least there's very little of the illness in your country, so you're lucky to be Chinese, huh?
That's why it is, and that's why a lot of people say the whole country it's a big jail. Now
it looks that way. Well, look, I mean, I'm googling right now how many COVID cases in Shanghai, and I mean, I just don't trust the numbers coming out of China. I mean, this graph says that they've literally had 0 cases for the past year, and now there's a spike up to 2,000. I don't know. That I just don't trust anything the Chinese government says. Do you?
Well, of course, those numbers cannot be trusted. You will never know the reality over there without a transparency. But however, there are all these horrible stories. Like I heard a story that I actually read a story. There's a wholesale center. It's a building in Shanghai. Now, all the offices in the building is like doing wholesale business. Now, because there was a couple of guys tested positive, so they locked down the whole building. Now, keep in mind, these people, they're in their office. They're not in their homes, but they were not allowed home for a couple of weeks. They have to live and sleep in their office for 2 weeks. And there was a construction site. There's like more than 20 construction workers, just because there was couple guys tested positive. They locked down the whole site. So this more than 20 construction workers have to stay in the construction site for couple weeks.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, when I just posted about a month ago that a massive lockdown had started in China, including the district where Apple computers are made. One of my viewers joked, well, I hope they lock the workers in the factory because I want my Apple product. And they were joking, but sadly, you're saying that's actually happening at some businesses.
Yes, yes, it actually happening over there. Now you see the video you're just showing that they they actually welded the doors and the doorways and gates. That's actually the true situation that's happening there. I have read stories, which create tremendous health and living hazard for a lot of people, especially to the older people and people with sickness, health issues. We have seen that stories that the people are sent to hospital because of the emergency situations, but however, the hospital refused to admit them into the hospital because they cannot show their immediate test negative results. There are people die outside of a hospital because of a heart attack, stroke, and one horrible story was a, pregnant woman was giving birth to her child, and they both die. She and her child both die while they are outside of a hospital waiting for their testing negative result.
Oh my word. It's like someone needs to snap out of it and realize, are we really trying to save lives here? We're clearly not trying to save lives if we're locking people out of a hospital because their green pass didn't show green in the past few hours. Actually, this article out of Al Jazeera kind of highlights some of that. Like Wuhan all over again, as Shanghai protests China censors, they're zoning in on the censorship, but the stories out of here are horrible. Quote, much of the information removed by the censors spoke of the desperation enveloping Shanghai, including many calls for help from citizens, dialysis patients begging to be admitted to hospitals, families running out of food, and a cancer patient returning from chemotherapy yet being refused entry to her apartment because of the lockdown. This is just insanity. And sadly, a bit of that is actually happening in the US as well. I've been hearing from patients who need to go to the doctor to get checked for something else, but it's actually because they haven't had the needle in the arm that they're not allowed to get treated. What's happening in China is that the Chinese government allegedly is ratcheting up the censorship of the stories of this. At least in the US, you have a little bit of a chance of telling your story that, yeah, I was locked out of this hospital. I was denied treatment for the illness, and now, my father just died. We hear these stories. In China, Al Jazeera is highlighting how you have to catch if a story outside the narrative is posted on social media in China, you have to screenshot it because within moments it's going to be gone if it doesn't fit the narrative. So people are, and then algorithms are tacked onto that post so you can't post it again. So people are doing tricks like doing a mirror image of a censored photo to overcome the algorithm, because the bots, they add a bot algorithm onto a censored photo so no one can ever post that photo again. But if you flip it and do a mirror image of the photo, the bot won't pick up that photo and you can still keep posting it. So the Chinese are literally coming up with tricks like that, this article is highlighting, to try to overcome the censorship and let each other know what's going on and let the rest of the world know what's going on. But it's really horrifying to see this censorship. But Nan, it was 2019 that I was studying Chinese censorship, and China's been up to this since before the pandemic, haven't they?
Oh yes, they have been doing this all these years. They build a huge firewall that actually not allowing people to go out to see what's the reality of the war, and so they will prevent all the informations from outside, from the international society coming to China. Now, in this COVID situation in Shanghai, I read a story that there's one guy, he posted on his own Weibo, which is a Chinese Twitter. He posted one statement there, just complaining about his living condition, about food and medicine and water. Some of the people got locked down; they don't even have water. So he just makes some complaint, and then a few hours later, there's a bunch of people now. Those people now wearing uniforms. They are plain clothes, but they knocking his door, and they threatening him to immediately delete whatever he say on his social media platform. They wouldn't leave his apartment until he deleted. So it's not only just deleted whatever you put on your platform. They are actually knocking your door to force you to do it.
You know what? I was just seeing that as well today. So that the video of the welding shut of the doors was actually posted today by a great source that I follow on Twitter. There's a guy in China who's posting everything that's happening on his Twitter. And I have linked that guy down below. But one thing he's highlighting today is this girl. I guess she's a social media influencer out of China. I think she was in America at the time, but the Chinese didn't care. Chinese government didn't care. So here it is. And this is a Chinese police officer. This was actually early 2020. China was trying hard to control the narrative on the new illness. And the Chinese officer FaceTimes her from China. She's not even in China at the time. The officer lets her know that he has her dad detained. The officer has gone and arrested this woman's dad because he believes that she is in charge of a Twitter account called Fake News China, I believe it's called. Twitter account that the Chinese government doesn't like and wants to get rid of. And the Chinese government is saying, hey, girl, delete your Twitter account or your dad is going to be locked away in jail. And she's saying, it's not mine. It's not my Twitter account. Anyway, I checked that Twitter account. Get this. The New York Times highlighted that controversial Twitter account just in December of 2021. New York Times actually, what happened is the Twitter account ended up getting deleted, or it ended up getting suspended. It's called Fake News of China, at Fake News of China. The whole account was suspended because they were putting out inconvenient truths about China. So New York Times finally highlights it, shockingly, and they reach out to Twitter and say, hey, why is this account suspended? Well, guess what? The account immediately gets reenacted. And so I sit and look at this and I'm like, is it the Chinese government doing the censorship or is it Twitter doing the censorship? Because New York Times reached out to Twitter, not the Chinese government, and then Twitter reinstated the account. But I think what we're seeing is Chinese government working in close tandem with Twitter. And allegedly in America, that's not happening. Allegedly in America, oh, it's just a corporation's decision. Biden admin didn't have any say in this censorship. What's your take, Nansu? Because at this point, what we see happen in China is just so similar to what we're seeing in America, sadly.
Well, I will say this: if you think that what's happening in China is similar what you see in the United States, now think twice, because if you go to China, you live there, you will immediately realize the situation there. It's like probably 10,000 times worse than what you see and experience in the United States. Yeah, because now I'll give you a couple of examples. In May of last year, one of the reporter was sentenced to jail for 8 months just because he wrote one statement in his own Twitter. Now, it's not a Twitter here. It's Chinese Twitter. It's called Weibo. It's a different platform based in China. Now, he wrote just one statement. He questioned. He didn't even, criticize the government. He's a reporter. He question the total number of soldiers die in the conflict along the western border of China between China and India. He believed the total number of Chinese soldiers die in the conflicts is a lot more than what's reported by the state-owned media, and he was
Mm.
sentenced 8 months.
Oh my
And
gosh.
in October of last year, now there was also a reporter. He was arrested because he made one comment about the Korean War. Now, Korean last year was like what actually 70 years of anniversary of a Korean War, right? The Chinese Chinese regime released a movie. It's a propaganda movie, entirely twisted view about Korean War. So after saw the movie, and he made one comment. He basically say, "Well, it was still a question." He said, "Well, after 70 years." We look back that period of history. A lot of people may have a second thought. Was that a right decision for the Chinese army to send the Chinese army to Korea and fight against the United States? Is that a right decision? He just asked the questions, and he was immediately arrested. Now, and there's another worse, very bad story about a woman living in Shanghai. We don't even know her name. We only know her last name is Xu. Now, what she did was she tried to make a statement against those men on the internet bully women. So it's not even a political. So what? But she was not careful. She tried what she said was all these men bully women on the internet think themselves as Dong Chunrui. Okay, Dong Chunrui is a name of a communist hero. It's an iconic communist hero. So she referred these people bully women to a communist woman, to a communist hero. Just for
Oh, wow.
that, she wasn't choose her language carefully. For that, she got 7 months in jail.
Oh my word, that is insanity. Yeah, you guys do have it a lot worse in China. I'm Facebook friends with this guy in who's locked down in Shanghai right now. He was saying he posted this under Shanghai lockdown when the government gives you rotten bananas, you make banana cakes. He posted what he made. So basically, they're locked inside their buildings, including the Americans. The thing about Shanghai is it's a very multinational city. There's a ton of foreigners living there. So this American, he's locked inside his building. I'm sure the gates welded shut, and he has to wait for the Shanghai regime to send him whatever food they're going to put in. Looks like recently they're getting some better food. It looks delicious. He's been posting his meals though, and posting these videos of people, you know, playing music or talking. We've seen the videos of people yelling out of their apartments, asking for food. And it's hard to verify everything, but how much is this lockdown affecting hunger? Are people starving to death?
Oh yes, there's a lot of you can see a lot of these complaints on from the social media platform. The people without food and without the daily medicines for their like diabetes, high blood pressure, without treatments. Now there's some of the people that got quarantined in hotel. They were sent to the hotel, and the hotel is out of water. You see this kind of a complaint
Mm.
all the time. The U.S., United States consulate in Shanghai basically ask most of their employees to go home, to leave the country, and they only keep a very small number of people there to keep the essential service. And there are a couple countries like I think it was a French government and Japanese Chamber of Commerce in Shanghai. They actually send letters to to Shanghai government, Shanghai city government, and ask them to loosen up these measures so so you won't you won't affect their employees and their members' life. So that there's a lot of complaints all around the world, including the local residents. And one funny story is I saw actually there's a chatting group. It's called a parents chatting group. You know all these what they're chatting? They're
What?
chatting about how to quickly get affected by COVID. And the reason they're chatting that it's because once if your children tested positive, they will be taken away from the parents. So all these parents, they form a group on the social media. They exchange the experience to talk about if your children get affected, and how you quickly become testing positive, because once you're testing positive too, they will allow you to stay with your children.
Oh, that's so horrible. That a parent would want to get sick in order to not be separated from their children. It's a bleak
That's right.
situation. I've been looking at the social media, the cell phone videos that do leak out before they get censored by the Chinese government. You can always tell who is a government official because they're wearing these creepy head to toe white uniforms, and we're seeing a lot of government official brutality in China. I'll show you a clip here.
乖乖。人。
So presumably these are people who violated the rules on the illness. Maybe they didn't get their testing. Is what I'm being told. They didn't do a daily test for the illness. Those are clearly some people who were let out of the welded, closed apartment buildings. But if you're let out, you at least have to have your green pass at all times, right?
Looking at the video, I can't tell if those people they're just didn't follow the rules of providing the daily testing results. Because they may be just the people, they are really hungry at home. They try to get out to get some food. And there are people, they have their families with medical health conditions. They try to get out to get a medicine.
So they could have broken out of their little home jail, and that's why
that's right. That's right. Yeah, people don't try to risk their own life if they don't if they can still live there. I mean, it's the condition, either they need a medicine or food or something in the emergency. They feel they have to get out because they know what they're going to face once they get out. You have all these people waiting outside to beat you up. So people won't do that unless they have, really the situation that forced them to have to get out their own apartments.
Wow. So before we wrap this up, you were born and raised in China. Why did you leave?
Well, I came to United States in 1989, January. I was like about 5 months prior to the Tiananmen Square massacre, which was in June of '89. Now, I was here because I was chasing a girl I was in love with.
Oh, what a romantic story!
So yeah, we end up married and had a family all together for our whole life, which I have no regret.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I'm sure you're glad you followed love back then so that you're not locked in a home jail now.
Well, yeah, I came here, chase my love, but I end up stay for freedom.
That's awesome. Okay, so you're a senior reporter for the Epoch Times, guys. I love. I guess it's pronounced the Epoch Times.
It just depends if you pronounce it in the Canadian way or American way. So either way is correct.
Okay, awesome. Well, you guys, I have a link down in my description for you to, if you want to sign up for Epoch Times. My link with my code Ivory gives you $22 off your subscription to the Epoch Times. I think they keep me better informed than the New York Times or CNN or any of that. So I
Yeah,
love the
Epoch
newspaper.
is EPOCH. Epoch. EPOCH.
That's
Epoch.
right. I think it's ireadepoch.com. I forget the website, but it's a link down below. Is the link to sign up and get my discount. Discount code Ivory. Thank you so much, Nansu, for coming on and helping inform my viewers about just how bad it is over in China. We pray for the Chinese citizens that they can find some liberty, and we also pray that that never happens here in the U.S. It's already gotten a little too similar to China in many
Thank
ways.
you, Ivory, for having me.
All right. You have a great weekend. We'll talk to you later.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.